Right.
We need everybody to mute their mics now, please.
Jerry, we're going to cover that, Jerry. So good afternoon, everybody. All members of the Juniors Association of Nassau County, junior firefighters, and a big welcome to all members of the individual fire department, junior firemen, junior firefighters, and the junior fire departments throughout all of Nassau County. We've been monitoring. We understand that there's quite a sizable audience out there. So we're going to talk about that. For starters, I'm Chief Marra, together here with my colleague, Chief Noonan from the Nassau County Fire Service Academy.
Good afternoon.
We're using the Zoom platform for some virtual training here. Just like many of you, we've been monitoring. We're still getting our feet wet using this program. We are broadcasting live from Anytown, USA Fire Department here in the firehouse. We have some things planned, but for today, we just want to open it up, have a little bit of a chat, little roundtable discussion on a number of things. For starters, though, getting back to utilizing this Zoom platform, because it's still new for us. For starters, Chief Noonan has muted everybody at this time. So even though you attempt to speak, the only way you can is by unmuting yourself at the bottom left of your screen. So we're not going to ask you, we're going to entertain questions at different points in time during the presentation. But if we had all 100 of you right now unmute and begin to conversate, I think you can understand what that might sound like. So we need everyone's cooperation with that. What we're going to do is ask you to utilize the chat function, which you'll see down low on your dashboard. That is a scrolling, continuous, by typing a question, a statement, a way to communicate with us, whether Chief Marra, Chief Noonan. Chief Noonan's going to do the best he can to monitor that chat function, and as good questions come up or contributions to the conversation, we'll address them as we go. But we apologize in advance because the attendance is great, and with 100 of you, there's just no way we're going to be able to get to everybody and get you home. Be able to do this within the time frame we're looking to do this in. So we want this to be interactive. So again, that chat function is going to be what we use for that. So again, this Zoom platform at the Fire Service Academy, we've already been using it with some of the tasks at hand. We've gotten some training up off the ground already. You know, but again, it's a nice feature. We were listening to many of you, even some of the adults that are signed on right now, some of you advisors, and how nifty this is. This is pretty cool. Unfortunately, the reason we're using this is because of this current crisis that we're in. And not just the fire service, but society as we know it nationally, and it's global, the entire world, with this coronavirus or COVID-19. So because we have all been quarantined for the past 6-7 weeks now, if not more, Zoom was always out there, but here we are. We're using it pretty much every day, especially some of the young ones, the members of the juniors. They're probably a lot better at this than those of you up in Great Neck and down south on the South Shore and up in East Norwich. And so is Chief Jerry Presta signed on. We want to make sure that our leader is in fact with us. So at any time, Chief Presta, send us a message in the chat function. We want to know you're out there. A special welcome overseas. We're hoping that Marcel and Benno from Germany were able to sign in from Camp Fahrenheit 516. I brought my nifty plaque here with me. So we're hoping that they were able to get in. So as far as this audience capacity or maximum of only 100, that's a work in progress. We're working on the licensing with the Zoom program. And I promise you that for the future broadcast, we're going to expand so we can go outside that 100 limit. It was only something we found out just now.
In addition, Chief Marra, this is being recorded, so if you're in touch with someone from your junior department that is not able to get on, express our apologies, but let them know sometime in the next week we will send that link where you'll be able to get on and watch this from a recording.
Yeah. So you have that to look forward to. So if your phone is already ringing from one of you juniors that they're unable to sign on for this, please get them the message and follow up on the posting for that recording so they can hopefully enjoy this as well. And we'll work on for the next broadcast that, again, we can open it up for greater than that number of 100. So again, the quarantine as we know it, it's affecting not only globally, but especially here, right here in Nassau County. I know it's, for many of us, it's not fun. There's no school. We're doing our lessons, our classwork at home on a computer. Pretty cool, pretty neat, a different type of skill set. But that whole social environment of being in class, I'm sure, is what many of you are missing. We're missing it at the Fire Academy also. Right now would be the height of our season. Department ops would be running every night, have all the different fire departments coming in and every night doing live burns. We'd be right in the heart of our Firefighter One program. And of course, you and your juniors programs, like any fire department, all meetings, all drills, trainings, and activities of the fire departments and the junior fire department organizations have basically come to a standstill. In talking to Jerry Presta just days ago, I understand it was early January since the last time the county association was together to have a meeting. And here we are, we're at the last day of the month of April. Tomorrow's May 1st already. But there is promise. We're hoping that this little at a time, in different phases, different stages, local government, state government are working on that plan, even nationally, to start getting some things opened up. So just remember, this is temporary. This is temporary. Most importantly, I want to make mention, as long as we're touching on this coronavirus and this COVID-19 and being quarantined, and I hope that you all, as the young adults that you are, understand what the quarantine's all about, but that you, especially your family and your friends, are safe and healthy, and anyone that you know might have been ill, that they're on their way to a nice, healthy, safe recovery. Our condolences to anyone who knows that they might have known someone who passed as a result of this crisis. This is really something that we haven't seen before. So as good future firefighters, and I hope most of you are, we stay tuned into the news, just like in school, current events, because it's definitely been the #1 news story in the past 7 to 8 weeks. So like anybody, stay tuned in, give yourself a break from time to time from that daily news, the evening news. But again, we want to keep our fingers on the pulse of what's going on. That's what eventual good firefighters do. So again, so we talk a little bit about how this COVID-19 and the current crisis has affected us, our friends, our family, society. I want to ask you, Chief Noon, has anybody been using the chat function just yet? Do we have anything?
We just had a couple of questions. Generally, how many fire departments there are in Nassau County? I answered 71. There was a second question about how many junior programs. Jerry Preston was nice enough to answer somewhere between 52 and 54, which is a number I didn't know, and that's a pretty great percentage of the fire departments in Nassau County, Chief.
So, in speaking about those 71 fire departments and those 52 to 54 junior programs that are out there, let me ask you this there, campers is what I want to call you, but firefighters, junior firefighters, firefighters to be, how has this COVID-19 and this current crisis affected the fire service and your fire department back at home as we know it? I already touched on and mentioned that some of the regular activities, such as trainings and drills and meetings, have come to a standstill, or what we call a pause. I'm not aware of any fire departments that are actually still having a robust training program going on. And if they are, I bet you they're using this Zoom virtual platform to conduct their training. So, but right about now, think about it. How else has it affected it? Even you advisors, you adults that are signed on, how is that maybe affecting the fire service as we know it? I'll give you a second or two to think about it. Feel free to use that chat function. How many of you have seen this? Familiar with the N95 face mask? I mean, we actually see apparatus responding to and from alarms with the firefighters on board wearing their N95 facial protection in the apparatus crew rigs, in the crew cabs. We see spatial distancing in the firehouse. We're limiting the amount of members that are actually riding in the crew cabs themselves. How many of you even know that maybe your fire department, your firehouse has adjusted the response? Maybe you've gone to some sort of zone response, limited the amount of members actually responding on the rig. Maybe they're only sending one engine to certain types of alarms. I mean, these are all efforts by your fire department, your fire district, and the firehouse to limit the exposure of the members to, I guess you'd say, the community that we protect. Unfortunately, it's out there. The virus still does exist. So we have to take all these precautions and adhere to these protocols for not only the protection of our community, but the protection of the members in the ranks and file of the fire department. If everybody in the firehouse got sick, then I would think you could see that we'd have quite the dilemma, quite the problem. So we don't have our meetings, we don't have our drills, the formal activities. Even like I said, at the fire academy, pretty much a lot has come to a standstill, but through the efforts of our administration, Chief Hughes, Chief Wilders, we've got a lot of things cooking right now, and this is one of them. We just began a little continuation of our primary or our new Firefight One program. We just did some SCBA training last Wednesday evening and Saturday morning. Just last night, Chief Noonan and myself, along with Chief Strong, were on the grounds of the academy. We conducted a ropes and knots class for 2 hours, again, taking advantage of the Zoom virtual platform with some 80 probationary firefighters at home with their rope shorts, practicing their ropes and knots as we demonstrated them and conducted a ropes lesson. So before we conclude today, we're going to talk about some of the plans we think we have for you moving forward.
So Chief Marra, over on the chat, just giving you a quick update. We mentioned about training and some of the differences that are going on in our fire departments. The online training, as you mentioned, seems to be the prevailing sentiment throughout a lot of posts. I hadn't seen before, but they are using, one of the departments using GroupMe to keep up with any protocol changes, especially on the EMS end, which we know has been very taxing on a lot of your fire departments. Franklin Square, John Talbot mentioned they're using online classes through a separate provider, not like a Zoom, but a Target Solutions, where they actually have programs and they go on and have training. And Hewlett is actually using duty crews, it's mentioned here by Eric Fisher. So Eric, does that mean they're in the firehouse waiting for alarms and other volunteers aren't coming to the firehouse, or how is that working? I'm curious. As maybe Chief Marra goes on, maybe we can circle back to that if you answer up.
Yeah, who's that, Eric from Hewlett?
Eric Fisher, I'm assuming from Hewlett.
All right, so that's great. So there's a department's efforts to, again, not only minimize the potential exposure of its members to the community, but an effort to only so many members at a time, as needed, to go out on those runs to respond to alarms, to minimize, again, exposure to the members of the fire department. So that's some good thinking. That's some out-of-the-box thinking, and maybe it's more common than we think. So the fact of the matter is, throughout the county, aware of many firehouses, the fact of the matter is the doors are just closed, and with the exception of when the horn blows or the pagers go off and it's time to respond on an alarm, there's really not much activity in the firehouses. So again, not to be doom and gloom while we use Zoom, but you tell me right now, is there any positive that's come out of this crisis regarding the fire service? Anybody? Does anybody know if what positivity could have come out of this current crisis that we're all exposed to? I have one for you. How about the recognition of all the work being performed by the doctors, the nurses, anybody in the healthcare field, whether it be at the hospitals and clinics, at our testing sites, but what else, especially in relation to us? Who else is on the front lines in this war against the coronavirus? Well, how about our very own EMTs and paramedics and the firefighters perhaps assigned to EMS runs, whether they're the chauffeur of the ambulances, but a fair amount of Nassau County Fire Services out there on a daily basis, running around, call after call, doing quite the amount of great work in our efforts to take care of our communities that we protect. So what's been positive about this is finally, especially those at the hospital, those doctors, nurses, our EMTs, medics, and firefighters, has been a lot of good accolades and recognition of the great work that our people do day after day. So how many of you are aware on these Tuesday nights, they're doing these sirens at 7 throughout all of Nassau County? How many of you know that the fire department's participating in that? And that's a way for us as the fire service to recognize and I guess applaud those healthcare workers, again, the doctors, the nurses, and let's call it what it is. Even a pat on the back to our members of our departments that are out there doing just that. The essential workers also. Let's not lose sight of that. I mean, again, tough times. The essential workers, the people that keep the supermarkets up and running, the truck drivers that keep the goods on the road and the deliveries being made, and again, that list goes on. But again, keeping in mind the fair amount of people that have been quarantined, especially maybe in your own house. Maybe mom or dad has not been able to go to work, so our thoughts got to remain with them. But getting back to those healthcare workers and all the other essential workers, I think it's important to recognize finally, at times we overlook them, but finally they're getting their due, and accolades, applause to them. They're the heroes throughout this entire crisis. Chief Noonan, anybody?
Yeah, we had a couple of comments, Chief Marra. One, Maximilian up in Manhasset, Lakeville. That was really excited.
Max, you're back.
To see, emphasize that EMS, in order for the doctors and the nurses to treat the patients, in many cases, it's the EMS workers that need to get these patients to the hospital. John in Franklin Square, who we heard from a little earlier, also mentioned he feels in his department that people are being kinder to each other.
Yeah, a kinder, gentler society out there in the county.
Also in Manhasset, Alexander Moustakis mentioning they're limiting one company response to fire calls unless it sounds like it's something structural, maybe a phone alarm, something like that. So minimizing maybe the people we're sending to alarms, and I bet you many departments are minimizing the amount of people they're actually sending into buildings.
That's great. A special shout out to my friend Max up there in Manhattan. Max, I haven't forgotten about you. An absolute pleasure to have last year, Fahrenheit 516 at camp. So great input, everybody. Thanks for the feedback. That's just what we're looking to use that chat function for. So keep them rolling, keep them coming in. Speaking of the camp, so Chief Noonan, if I'm not mistaken, let's go to the slides. I think we might actually be able to show a little bit about, for those of you who are in the camp, for those of you who didn't get into the camp, we'll talk more about that throughout this presentation. We love our county colors and our Junior Firefighters Association logo. There we go. There's all the attendance, our 3 squads, a contingency from Germany last July. Hats off to, again, Cherry Pressa for making this occur and happen. And again, Mike from Hicksville, I believe Phil from Farmdale, the entire staff that makes the camp happen. For those of you that are sitting there right now and saying, man, I didn't get to make the camp last year. Unfortunately, the attendance and the ability to sign up is limited, and that's based on how many we can work with at the academy at any given time. But we're always working on how to move forward and get more participants of the camp. And I think we have our individual squads that we have pictures of. And if I'm not mistaken, we used the colors of the German flag. Last year we used gold, we had squad black, and of course squad red. So maybe for those of you that were in Fahrenheit 516 last year, you saw yourself. It's nice to reminisce back to photos of yourselves. Again, this was last summer, 2019. Next slide, Chief Noonan. I think we had actually was the news clip from a year or so ago, or was this just last year? So, oh, who's that guy? Yeah, that's who we're looking for. That's and again, there was good media coverage of Fahrenheit 516. So right about now, maybe you're saying to yourself, "Oh, wow, that's great." What about this year? Well, I want to let you know we're already talking about it, but like anything, it's on the back burner. There's a lot of things on the burner of that stove of ours that we're heating up, but until we know more about where we're going week by week, we've got to get the Academy up and running again with all our programs. A good amount of our programs are going to be online, are going to be delivered somewhat in a Zoom virtual platform. As far as department operations and actually having students back on the campus of the Fire Academy, let alone the juniors, again, we're just going to have to keep you posted at different time intervals. But trust me, Chief Hughes, in coordination with Chief Presta, we love to be able to think we're going to be able to do the camp along with that Sunday, everybody participate in the Evolutions Sunday. So next slide, Chief. Well, let's drop back. Let's go to the live shot, I guess. Let's talk a little bit about what will we discuss. I believe we're talking about all those healthcare workers and the heroes that they are. They've kind of become role models. So we talk a little bit about this when we're together at the Academy. We have you campers on the grounds, but who's your role model? What is a role model? Let me ask you this out there. Who's your role model? Let's see that chat function light up. And basically, what is a role model? That's basically somebody who we look up to, somebody that we like to emulate or be like, especially as we get older. Often it could be, maybe it's a family member in your house. Maybe it's your mom, maybe it's your dad, an older brother, older sister. Maybe it's somebody down in your firehouse or in your program. Chief,
Would we like to go to the poll, Chief?
Oh, we have a poll question. That's correct. So those are different examples. So who is the role model, perhaps, in your life? So Chief Noonan designed, and we have a poll question for you.
This is our first time using our poll. So based off what Chief Marra just said, here is our question. Who is your biggest influence that led to you joining the junior fire department? Was it one of your family members? Was it a family friend? Did you come across an advertisement for recruiting? Was it a school visit or a visit where you went to the firehouse? Maybe fire day, Fire Prevention Day in October. Was it one of your classmates? So let's see what the answers ended up with the poll, and I'm going to share the results with you in a minute. This is the first time we're using the poll feature, so give me some feedback on the chat. I want to make sure it goes okay. If not, we're going to have to make some adjustments. But so far, it looks like we're getting a lot of feedback. So that's what I like to see here, Chief.
Even I just voted. So
I've got 72 out of 99 that have voted so far.
Let's go. Let's get those votes in so we can talk about it and check on the results. We'll give you 20 more seconds.
Exactly. Yes. So if you don't get the vote, that's okay. But, definitely we want to see what's that percentage. I kind of have my own feelings of where it's going to go, but we're going to share those results with you so you can see the percentage.
Let's see. There we go. Chief, I'm now monitoring the chat function as well. So.
All right. I think we're about a minute and a half into this. We've had 83 people log in. Chief, how about we share that results? What do you think?
Let's go with it, Chief Noonan.
All right. So I'm ending our poll, and I'm going to share the results with everybody the way I see it. Hopefully you see it too. Our family members, our parents, our siblings were at 60%. So more than half. Second would be a family friend coming in at 24%. So a pretty far drop. Our classmates accounted for 14%. 10% visit to the firehouse. That's impressive. And recruiting, 7%. Those 6 of you out of 83 who saw an ad and said, hey, that looks pretty cool. I want to give it a shot. Hats off to all of you. Chief.
Yeah, and historically in the fire department, it was typically, you could see the results prove it. Often it was a family member. Back in the old days, it was usually dad, but we're well aware that we have females in the fire service now, going back as many as 30 to 40 years now. So maybe nowadays, I even saw somebody said, my mom is my role model. And I got to shout out because we're welcoming a contingency from Suffolk County. Lakeland Fire Department is here. So we have representation in the juniors from Lakeland. Okay, so good to hear, good to see. Welcome, Lakeland. But again, if it wasn't somebody in your own household growing up as a kid, often it was that neighbor on the block, maybe the gentleman or someone who lived down on the corner. You'd see them go down the block with their blue light. And again, it got you excited, especially as a young kid, and it just made you want to maybe someday think about joining the fire service. So I know that's what worked for me. If I'm not mistaken, the next slide is what I look like. So this is what I look like now. But this is what the 18, 19-year-old looks like when you first join the fire service and you're getting your feet wet. Here we go. There's a young Chief Marra. How's that, Max, up there in Hesed Lakeville? So Chief Noonan threw this one at me the other day, and first thing I had to say was, where did you get that? But there's a young firefighter who was young and impressionable. And you know how much I knew in that photo? Not very much. Okay, so again, it's all about what you can absorb, what you can learn from those role models, those people, whether you consider them your hero, okay, but the people that we looked up to. The next photo especially is one I asked Chief Noonan to include. This one I hold dear to me because here's three of my role models right there, okay? The gentleman all the way to the left, that's my eldest brother, Bob. And he's a number of years older than me. I won't say exactly how many. But I was the kid in the house watching my oldest brother, my big brother, run in and out, chasing fire calls back in the Hempstead Fire Department, back when I was a kid. And boy, it was the most exciting thing. And nothing was better than every once in a great while being able to take a ride with them, because back then you could actually take your car to the fire scene and be able to go to the actual fire, the scene of the alarm. The next gentleman happens to be Chief Noonan's father, my Chief Noonan. Again, growing up, one of my brother's closest friends, ex-chief twice of the Hempstead Fire Department, but again, somebody I looked up to, my second role model. And then, of course, this Chief Noonan, who you can't see right now because he's working the camera, but my colleague and one of my closest friends. We're family together. We grew up together. And I think I speak for him when I say that not only do we share our fire service experience together with a lot, we worked in the same place together. We were on staff at the fire academy together. We were in the same firehouse together in Hempstead. But those two gentlemen there, both his dad, Robert Noonan Sr., and my brother, Robert Marra, were our two role models. Again, so it's people like that, most often family member, but again, it doesn't always have to be a family member. It can be an uncle, it could be someone down on the corner, but it's somebody that kind of, you know, you want to be like as you get older. There's no doubt in my mind, many of you right now are sitting there saying, my mom, my dad, my brother, my uncle, etc. So again, how many of you, let me ask you right now, I think we have a poll question. Again, Chief Noonan, how many of you actually plan on joining the fire department when you reach that age? I believe most fire departments have to be 18 in the county of Nassau. I can't be sure whether or not there's a select few that allow you to join at the age of 17, especially if you've been involved in the Explorers program or the Juniors program. But again, my good Chief Noonan here just threw on the screen the next poll question.
Okay, here we go. Our second question of the day. How many of you plan on joining your home fire department when you reach the eligible age to join? A yes, a no, and listen, we put a maybe up there. It's a tough time for you, as many of you young teenagers. You might not know exactly where you're going to be or what your plans are. So maybe is more than acceptable. And it's okay for you to answer. However, we're just tracking a general number here. Nobody knows how you answer, so feel free just to give us an idea of.
So cast your vote right now. Let's see what the results look like.
Okay, Chief, we're at 73 of 99 and only 50 seconds in, so we had about 83 answer last time. Let's try to get a little higher than that if we can. I don't know that we'll get all 99 to participate, but I'd love to see it.
Now, for example, East Norwich, I'm reading the chat, 17 years of age, you can join the fire department if you've been a junior in good standing. Shout out to Jerry for that good information. Farmingdale, same, 17, as long as you've been a member of the juniors program in good standing. Lakeland, 17, 18 for everyone else, but it's definitely a fair amount of departments out there. Lakeland representing Suffolk County. If I'm not mistaken, a lot of Suffolk County, you can join at the age of 17 if you've been a member of the juniors program. So do we have results?
Yes, Chief, let's, I'm going to end the poll now, and let's share those results. And it looks like out of 78 votes, Chief Marra, 54 plan on joining. We have 2 that will not be able to as of this time, and who knows, things change, and 22 that are a maybe, but 69% of our answers look like they would love to and intend to, you know, join that volunteer fire service and hopefully continue this great tradition of ours.
You bet. So here's what it's contingent on, though. Campers, junior firefighters, number 1, you need to finish high school. There's no firehouse until you finish high school. Get that high school diploma. Next thing is you have a plan in place to attend college. Okay, so those 2 things are contingent, okay, with joining the firehouse, whether it be 17, 18 years old, become a member of your fire department. The high school diploma is a must in a lot of fire departments. I'm just here to tell you, I encourage you all to put a plan together to attend college. And right about now, if you're sitting there saying, already have that in place, or a tentative plan, or I'm busy still researching with my parents, that's what we want to hear. And we look forward to your membership in the fire service. Listen, there's the biggest benefit of having all these junior programs throughout the fire service of Nassau County is the ability of retention, keeping you engaged, hopefully becoming members of your firehouse, okay? At times, we struggle for membership. It cycles from time to time, but we find ourselves always looking for some new, good blood throughout our ranks. So any other questions at this time, Chief? Otherwise, I think we'll just keep on going.
I think we should keep moving, Chief.
So in the camp, and maybe again, I hate to keep referring to the camp, but a lot of my interaction with the fine young people of the fire service of Nassau County is I like to talk about the whole team. So team, I like to use the word team as in teamwork as the acronym as it is. I don't know, do we have that slide, Chief?
We will.
There it is.
Just 1 second there, Chief.
Teamwork. I don't know if I have to go into a detailed description of what I mean by teamwork. It's everybody together with an effort, with good results, successful outcome, whatever the activity, whatever the task. But team is T-E-A-M. With together, everyone accomplishes or achieves more. That's words to live by in the fire service. And it's something that I teach and preach in a lot of my classes. Listen, the fireground operation is all about teamwork. As much as firefighter positions work independent from one another at times, it's about a giant team effort. We talk about pride, honor, and integrity. Now we're talking about you, the individual, the human being that we all are. Okay, these are values that we like to think the advisors of your program, family members such as your parents, all instill in you. These are what we want our junior firefighters and eventual firefighters, okay, to possess this skill set of pride, honor, and integrity. Who can type in the chat? What do you think pride means? What's pride all about? Being proud of who you are, proud of your family, but put it in a fire service setting. You might be proud of what? How about your firehouse? Maybe your mom or dad's company that you're planning on joining. You like to wear the sweatshirt or the t-shirt of your fire department. You love to wear the t-shirt of the Nassau County Junior Firefighters Association that Chief Jerry and his staff get from time to time for everybody. Okay, that's what we mean by proud. Being proud of the organization, the agency, the Junior Firefighters program that you're a part of. Honor. What do we mean by honor? We talked about pride, now we have honor. How about honoring those that came before us? How many of you can recall being in the firehouse for your Junior Firefighters Night And maybe in the recreation room, maybe even out on the apparatus floor, or the truck room floor, there's pictures of what on the walls? Well, the older members, not just from a few years ago, but we see photos and pictures of members and the apparatus, even the community from a long time ago, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. I love some of the history that's out there, but that's what we mean by honor. Remembering those that came before us, working hard to honor those that came before us, the traditions, the history of the company, the department, and the firehouse that maybe sometimes you'll join. Hey, listen, honor also works back at home there, junior firefighters. And again, the history of your family, again, how do we learn that? Through old photos and pictures that maybe your parents have in those old books. They were called photo albums. So maybe every once in a while you page through a photo album and you see a little bit of the history of your family, and that's how you honor them also. Chief Noonan, question?
Just a couple of things we've seen in the chat, Chief Marra, much along the lines of where you were going. Proud to be in your fire department, proud to be a member of your company, honoring those firefighters that have gone down in the line of duty. I think that's a great point from Anthony from Inwood. Your buddy Max up in Manhasset, honoring your elders, right? Those elder firefighters who came before you that have been there, you know, right? They've got the experience. They've done so much. Listen to what they have to say. You know, give them the respect that they've definitely earned.
Great points. Great points. I think I love this chat function, the ability to interact with people. So keep your thoughts coming on anything that perhaps we're talking about. Let's get to integrity. What do we mean by integrity? Let's see that chat function really roll now. But what's integrity? Integrity is doing the right thing, okay? Making good decisions. It's a little bit about our integrity, the type of person we are, our behavior. How we perform. And listen, not always in front of an audience. Integrity is about the decisions we make, the choices we make, and how we conduct ourselves. And this isn't just in our juniors program or in the firehouse. This is in life in general, at school, with our friends, in your juniors program, but even when people aren't looking, is what I like to say. Is how we present ourselves, how we conduct our own personal behavior. It's often said that that person there is of good character and good integrity. So that's what we mean when we want to talk about grooming good future firefighters of our Nassau County Fire Service with pride, honor, and integrity.
Talking about integrity, Chief, what we have from some of our juniors out there, A. Lockman and Wantor, having good moral principles. Frankie Mendez mentions the word honesty, which is important. Hannah up in Lakeland, behaving right will help you succeed more. Our association first vice president, Dom, making better decisions, having a moral obligation to better yourselves and the others around you. All good points. Great job.
Awesome. That's great, Chief. So this all, again, this is something that we try to incorporate in all of our lessons at the Academy, especially when we run our leadership program. So we'll talk about that in a moment. But, you know, we just had a pretty fair, good lesson there on teamwork, pride, honor, integrity. And I ask of you right now, is this something that you can incorporate into your everyday activities? The answer is yes. Even your behavior around the house. And trust me, your folks, your grandparents will be pretty impressed. So speaking of leadership, let's come back live again. So what do we mean by leadership? Okay, so leadership. There's no doubt in my mind we've been exposed to it. At the junior firefighter level, maybe you actually have members of your juniors program with rank. I don't know if you have a president, a vice president. Maybe you have a juniors captain and a lieutenant. We're aware that you have advisors, okay, that provide and promote good leadership on a regular basis. I know in the Camp 516, Camp Fahrenheit last summer, we had the 3 squads, which we showed you pictures of before. On a regular basis, I think it was every day or every couple of days, we appointed a new squad leader to provide that leadership to the squad. So right about now, I mentioned it, but it's not always about those that have rank. It's not always about the officers or the chiefs, even though we like to think they, on a daily basis, display good leadership. But leadership is typically those that are responsible for decision-making, those that affect change, maybe whether it be a result of those decisions that we make, but affecting change. But really, what I like to say, the biggest form of leadership is your ability as a person to facilitate or make successful the others that are around you, whether it be the people in your juniors program, and maybe it's your brother and sister at home that are intrigued by the lesson that you're doing this morning at your dining room table or in the study at the desk. Okay, but it's you leading by example, and how you conduct yourself. Again, this kind of ties in a little bit with our pride, honor, and integrity. But leadership to me is empowering those around us and making everyone else around us, especially in the fire service on the fire ground, making our firefighters that much better and successful at the task at hand, at the fire ground function. Again, whether it be drills, training, or on the fire ground. Allowing them, after being given a task or an assignment, to allow them to perform that task. There's not always success. Mistakes are made. As long as those mistakes don't lead to an injury, but this is all part of learning also. But that's what good leadership is, and leading by example. So right about now, there's no doubt in my mind, especially those of you that are the older ones in your junior program. Let me ask you, have you reached out to any of the younger members of your juniors program? When is the last time maybe you, because you've been in your program 3, 4, 5 years, maybe you have the rank of a captain, lieutenant, whatever that leadership role is. Maybe you don't have a title, but you've been around a little bit longer than the young man or the young person who just joined, well, just before this coronavirus hit. Have you reached out to them? Have you spoken to them, whether it be a text or maybe even through Zoom or just a phone call or an email, just to say, hey, how you doing? And we're going to be getting back together real soon. Did you maybe reach out to make sure they knew about today's Zoom training? Okay, so that's what I mean by good leadership. It's not always just the chief leading, giving examples and saying, come with me, let's go put the fire out. Okay, so I want you all to be able to put together, where can I practice good leadership skills? All right, mentors. How many of us are a good mentor? All right, what is a mentor? What is it to mentor somebody? This kind of ties in with that role model. Okay, but again, well, anybody in the chat have anything to say? Anybody out there, a mentor? Or who's your mentor? We kind of touched on it before with the role model. Okay, but maybe that mentor is someone who is that leader, someone you're looking up to. It's that role model, but are you their mentee? I had a mentor. I mentioned before, I had my older brother. I had Chief Noonan's father, the Chief Noonan Sr. I can go right down a list of people from my early days in the Hempstead Fire Department of who my mentors were. One was one of my all times is Brian Fahey. I looked up to him. He was a good mentor to me. A lot of other people were yelling and screaming. He didn't at times have too much to say, but when he said it, it was something to listen to, and it meant well, and it was something that to be learned. So again, a little bit about who's a mentor to you, someone you can look up to. All right, so I hope by now we're motivating you with some of this. So how motivated are you? I can tell you what, we had 80 motivated firefighters last night for our ropes and knots class. Okay, how motivated are you? Chief, next slide, I think.
Sure.
There you have it. There's a little mentoring taking place. There's a little guidance being given, a little coaching, some instruction being given to one of our firefighters. Actually, this is from the juniors program. This is our 2-minute our donning drill. How many of us at home have been motivated to actually conduct your donning drill in your own juniors program when you were having your drills and your activities? Next slide. There you go. Here's some hose line operations and hose line training on the grounds of the academy. This is actually, how many of you watch News 12? That's Erin Colton, one of the anchor women who every morning we watch and we get our news from. But that's Erin Colton, who was on the grounds of the academy doing a piece on some of the training. Chief Noonan standing in the background while we obviously facilitated the success of Erin Colton operating the hose line. So some slides there regarding some good training. So one more slide, Chief. I think it's from camp. There you go. Here's some campers and some junior firefighters conducting some hose line operations in our vehicle fires prop area. Do we have more of? Or more? So I think we have a series of slides to show you. And next slide, Chief. There we go. So Chief Presta, Jerry, are we aware? Is any of the Germany contingency signed on to us now? Because if not, I wanted to give a shout out to Marcel and Benno from Germany. You can see them there in the photos, but again, some great leadership by Jerry Presta, and not only bringing the entire Juniors Association to the Firefighters Monument in Eisenhower Park, but the integrity that showed to not only to include the Germany contingency to go there for a dedication ceremony. So that was really nice. So I think we have one more slide. There we go. How many of you look forward to eventually getting into our fire behavior lab? That's where we conduct a live burn. You get to observe the actual fire behavior of the fire condition. Here's some of our juniors conducting water supply operations, connecting to a hydrant in preparation for some hose line operations. I think we have one more slide. Oh, graduation day from the camp. So we just wanted to share some slides with you to let you know that we're working on Camp Fahrenheit 516 and don't lose hope. So we're starting to wind down a little bit. I was talking a little bit about motivation. I want to be able to keep you motivated. So Chief Presta, I have to give credit to, like so many things involving all junior firefighters throughout Nassau County, and especially I'll call it his project that he started years ago, together with his staff and all the fine adults of the fire service. But the Nassau County Junior Firefighters Association is one that's second to none. I think you advisors had signed on. We want to get as many people involved in this as possible. We want to motivate you to be just as soon as this coronavirus allows us to, but we want you to get up and running again. Even your programs back at home in your own fire department, your own firehouses. I want to be able to ask you, just what is the one new skill that you learned today? Maybe it's using this Zoom program. But in order to stay motivated, whether it be fire service or even with your schoolwork, I want to set a challenge to you. And I ask this of you. And you can use your chat function anytime to contribute. But just what is one skill that you maybe learned today, yesterday, the day before, or the last time you were together in your juniors program? What is the one skill that was new that you learned and went home from that night? Or what was one skill you revisited, reemphasized, and reviewed? Because if you don't have on a daily basis one new opportunity to learn something, you need to at least review an old skill set. Something old, you knew it before, because in the fire service, that's what we do all the time. Through some of our more formalized training, even not so formal training, even round tables, sitting around the firehouse, just chit-chatting about a recent fire call we might have went on. We like to think we learn something new each and every time you're together with the other firefighters, the other classmates in your class at school, even through Zoom, email, group meets. That's what I want to challenge you to do in order to stay motivated. Okay, along with all the other things we talked about, leadership, pride, honor, integrity. But one new skill, and I'm not sure if we're seeing anything in our chat function, but one new skill or one older skill that you knew of already, but you haven't really touched on it lately. Hey, maybe it's some rope tying skills that you learned in your juniors program. But again, so that's Chief Noonan, anything lighting up in that
We've
chat?
had a few people chime in. Max up in Manhasset reviewed forcible entry recently. A. Lockman over in Wandsworth just did some EMS work. And East Rockaway, Dom Orlando did some SCBA training.
So awesome. So remember something there, junior firefighter. I love it. I love the SCBA training. I love the forcible entry training. I love that we've talked a little bit about EMS here, and an EMS unit was reviewed, things like that. That's great stuff. Just remember, it doesn't always, as the young people that you are, 13, 14, 15 years old, it doesn't always have to be a firematic skill. I want you to stay focused on your schoolwork, okay? And even the things going on in current events with the coronavirus, it could be anything as long as it's something new. But that's how we stay motivated. For those of you, and you're saying, well, I haven't been able to get down to my juniors program. I haven't been in the firehouse in probably close to 2 months, if not more. I don't know how many of you have access to any fire service publications. I think we have all seen Firehouse Magazine. Maybe for those of you that have access, but if you don't have access to good books and publications, look at this. Here's my original training book from the Nassau County Fire Service Academy, 1983. But this book was actually printed in 1976. But again, this might be something I get a pretty good kick out of. But again, that's how we stay fresh. You young people, no doubt in my mind, know how to use YouTube and the internet 10 times better than us adults. So it's easy access to find a little something about challenging yourself to stay motivated on a daily basis. So that's the challenge that Chief Noonan and Chief Marra were throwing at you for today. We'll talk more about that. In wrapping up, we have one more poll question. We talked a lot today about human behavior as young people, members of our junior firefighter programs, leadership, pride, honor, integrity, how we present ourselves, how to stay motivated in these current times. However, moving forward, we do want to get back to the firematics, okay? And we've talked a little bit about some topics, some subjects that we're thinking of covering. But we want some feedback and some input from you and maybe some things or topics you'd like for us to cover.
Okay there, juniors. Our last poll question of the day. What type of training would you like to see for next week's class or possibly in the future? We gave you 5 options. Chief Marra and myself will kind of try and work off those, but we have self-contained breathing apparatus, forcible entry, fire behavior and extinguishers, ropes and knots, and lastly, fire ground operations. So we kind of want to try and give you what you want to see, what you're interested in, but ultimately all of these subjects are important to us in the fire service. So we've got 68 out of 94 so far, Chief, that have chimed in.
Let's get those votes in so we can see what we're dealing with as a result of our poll, and then we're going to be wrapping up. So Chief Jerry Presta, I know you're out there. Chief Jerry, are there any announcements perhaps we're going to touch on how we're going to continue to move forward with this series? But is there anything else that Chief Jerry Presta maybe wanted to type in the chat? If there's any message to get out there to our juniors.
Chief Presta, you've been unmuted, so if you want to chime in real quick, the floor is yours while we wait for this poll to finish out.
How you doing, everybody? I just want to say thank you for joining us. This was our first time. I think it went absolutely outstanding. It was a great first look at what we can do now, waiting for this virus to clear up so we can get back to our programs and our association. I was typing in the chat box, but I'd like to thank the FSA, Chief Noonan, Chief Marra, Chief Hughes for working over the last 2 weeks to put this together. along with the NCJFA staff, trying to come up with some ideas to keep everybody engaged and together. So thank you very much. Looking very forward to it next week. And that's stay safe, everybody.
Jerry, is it safe to say that we'll perhaps continue on with Thursday afternoons at 3 o'clock? Or do you want to somehow conduct a poll of your own through, I don't know, your site, Facebook, what have you, a different time frame perhaps, or day of the week perhaps, or because as of right now, the 3 o'clock on a Thursday is good for Chief Noonan and Chief Marra.
Well, why don't we keep it the same next week, and then if you want to put a poll together, let's see what happens. I know I had a lot of emails and texts I've been going back and forth about it being full, so I'm thinking that the time and everything is good because there were a lot of people looking to jump in.
All right, we'll see what feedback you get there, Chief. While you get that over the week, let's take a look at our poll. I'm going to end it now, share those results with you. And it was a pretty tight one there, Chief Marra. Fireground operations squeaked out with 30%. We had forcible entry at 23%. Ropes and knots, 18%. Fire behavior and extinguishers, 15%. And SCBA, 14%. So it's a very big split. But it looks like fireground operations is something Chief Marra and I will look into for next week's class. And
I'm going to propose that I think we'll do one of the other skill sets, because I'd like to do the first 4 and wrap it all up and how it all comes together for fireground operations. So maybe next week we're looking at forcible entry. But you know what? It's not definite. You need to tune in and see what we have planned. So in wrapping up, on behalf of Chief Noonan, Chief Hughes and Chief Wilders at the Fire Academy and all the staff at FSA, Chief Presta with the Nassau County Junior Firefighters Association, want to thank all you junior firefighters, those advisors that were signed on for today. We want to thank you for your attendance. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you at least learned one thing. I challenge you to one thing. So this could actually be it for today. But between now and next week, we're looking forward to finding out what that additional things were that you learned. But we look forward to seeing you all next week, Thursday. I believe it's May 7th at 3 o'clock p.m. Thursday, 3 o'clock p.m. We'll see you next week. Be safe. Stay well.
take care, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Stay safe.
Stay safe, everybody. Have a good day.
This is Southern City.